What's up, guys? It's Rob Bill, and welcome to Masculinity Rising number 6, where we're going to be hanging out with Mr. Thomas Fairman, talking all about what it means to be absolutely wild and to connect to your wild potential. We're going to talk all about getting healthier, eating healthy, taking care of this body, which is your most impactful and effective tool and weapon for the world, as the samurai, as the Spartans viewed it, and the power of getting butt-ass naked. So I know that you're going to enjoy this show. And remember, this is Masculinity Rising, where my intention is to empower you, empower all men to rise to their fullest potential. My intention is to help guide men to develop the power and the presence and the peacefulness so that they can be the most powerful leaders for themselves, for their families, and the world. Ultimately, my dream is to create a community of men who are physically strong, healthy, who are mentally resilient, who are emotionally intelligent and grounded, and are deeply spiritually grounded as well. And through Masculinity Rising, my aim is to improve the health at all levels of men, women, and children, and society as a whole. Enjoy this podcast, and when you get to the other side, let me know. Comments, shares, likes, emojis, anything, so that I know that you want more of this. And if you don't, that's cool too. Let me know, because I don't want to waste your time. Definitely don't want to waste my time. Rather hang out with my dude. But anyway, enjoy this show and have an amazing day. All right, man. Well, Thomas, like I said, is a men's coach who helps high performers unplug, reconnect to themselves, and to recharge so that they can serve at full power. I think that was a really fun way for me to look at it, because he comes from a tech background and has made a transition and thinks that we can actually not, we don't have to view it as the beast and push it away, but we can actually integrate it into our lives in a way that helps with more harmony, more personal power. So, Thomas, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you, Rob. So stoked to freaking be here with you and with everybody who's watching. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, and you might notice that neither of us have shirts on right now. And that's on purpose, because one of the things that Thomas does, and I'm going to dive just straight into the fun stuff here, is that he runs what are called WYLD men's retreats in the woods to reconnect to our natural selves, our primal selves, our natural rhythms. And I've seen you transition in this past year, and part of that revolves around being naked and being in your wild, absolutely wild body. And I think that is wild in itself. It was a couple or a group of men embodying the wild man. There are hairy selves out running around in the woods. I just have a visual of it. So that's a crazy thing. Or maybe it's not crazy, but it's very different. So I want to know all about this. I want to know about WYLD, about naked men's retreats. Fill us in on this.
Yeah, so I accidentally discovered naturism, and that's how it was presented. I didn't even know what naturism was, but for those of you just watching, like, naturism is nudism, but I never knew that really. And so it was 2019, and I was with my wife, and we'd just been married, and we wanted to move out to the woods. We wanted to live. We were working in tech. I was working in tech. She was an executive assistant in San Francisco, just a super busy life, right? Like always on, taking work home, working on weekends, not a lot of sleep, long commutes, the whole thing. And we found this place, this naturist resort. And I've always been a fan of nature. I spent 10 years living in Hawaii, right, growing up, barefoot, just like that whole vibe. And then we found this naturist resort, and it's like, oh, there's this beautiful cabin. It's overlooking this creek. It's out in nature. It's like 15 minutes drive from where I'm working. It's like, oh, this is sweet. But this naturism thing, it actually means nudity. It actually means clothing's optional on the whole resort. And I was like, what? This is kind of weird, but I think we can deal with it. I mean, the price is right. It's a beautiful spot. It's like, this is the one. So we just decided to live at this naturist resort and live clothing optional for a year. And I was so surprised. I had been someone who I was in touch with my body. I was in touch with nature and all this, but like being naked was such a surprisingly powerful way to reconnect with my body and to recharge, uh, that I was just like, whoa, what the heck? This is amazing. And heal a lot of stuff, because you have to face everything about your relationship with your body, right? It's like, this is what I look like from head to toe, like, and everything in between. Like, there's a kind of, I mean, we can just go and riff on that I can go into deep into depths into like why we do nudity, but like that's kind of how it started. That's how it came about, and I was just so surprised when it happened. Yeah.
What was the it sounded like it was a big transition. You're like, like we can do this, and then doing it, you're like, oh, there's a lot of inner stuff from the sound of it. If I'm hearing you correctly, that I have to get like settled with myself first. One, when I go off Nikolash's question, when did this happen for you? And then two, I want to know more about like, what did you encounter when you were like, oh, this is all of me?
Mm. Yeah, That's a great question, Nicholas. Thanks for putting that in there. Yeah, when it happened, I mean, we were 2019 when we moved at the end of 2019, and then it was like, okay, a few months later, pandemic, padoosh, like we're at home, we're unplugged, whether we like it or not, you know. And what I started to, so it was really 2020 when I started doing naked work. And very shortly thereafter, I noticed, like, I went and did my first naked photo shoot because we were promoting a retreat. I was working with the naked trainers. I met Jason Wimberly, and he really, like, helped me grow this thing and really discovered the power of nudity for healing. And I was like going to my first naked photo shoot. We were shooting a promo, and up until this point, I was working in high tech. Like, I mean, Silicon Valley isn't the most like suit and tie place, but I was like, people are not going to like this. People are going to be like, what the hell is this guy doing? Is he doing porn? Like, what? I don't want to work. I was like, I was scared. And so I remember walking out to that photo shoot, clutching in my hand. I clutched my boxers. I had a pair of boxers. So I was like, I'm going to need to put these on. It's going to be weird. And like, yeah, holding onto my underwear. Like, and I was raised Catholic. So I was raised in a tradition that was very, somewhat conservative in terms of things of a sexual nature, of any, like, even crossing any kind of line. So it was a little, I was definitely nervous. And then it got to a point, I was like, I remember walking out to the shoot. Jason looked over at me. I looked back at him, and he was just like shaking his head. And I was just like, okay. And so I hucked the boxer back to my porch and went and did the naked photo shoot. But it was like in that moment, like that moment of throwing those boxers, it was like, this is just what I am. Like, this is just who I am. If people don't want that, don't like that, it's like, whatever. Like, but I'm going to be comfortable in no matter what. And nobody can take that away. Nobody can change that. And if I can do that, if I can be naked right here, then the confidence that creates, and that, like, the love of like, yeah, this is what I am. Like, I can't change it. This is the fundamental level. If I can be comfortable here and love myself here, then I can love myself anywhere. And that was what I discovered, and what was so powerful about it.
Yeah. And I imagine that there's such a big breakthrough once you can get there, of just complete self-acceptance. And with that comes the self-confidence as well. And even like, when you said that, when you were talking about going into that photo shoot, like you're clutching your boxers, imagining that, I felt my whole body do this and go into that protective mode. And I imagine that so many dudes listening to this, when they take their clothes off, whether it's in front of your wife, in your bedroom, or like, I'm going to go swimming, or I'm out in public, that's what happens. You might not notice that you're going into this like fear, protective response. And there's so much to be gained from what we're talking about right here, is learning to become confident in your own body. It doesn't even mean they have to change it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want to know more about. We're going to dig into that for in a second here. And I went through Kim Anami's men's or sexual mastery for men program. And one of the big modules in there is like, dude, you're allowed to love your body. We have this connotation in our culture that like only women's bodies are beautiful and men are like, oh, disgusting. Don't ever look at it. We don't even think about it. I saw a male ass, like, ew, gross. But the thing is, and depends on who you talk to, like, we're the same. We're two halves of the same whole. We're just as beautiful as women's bodies. And for some women and some men looking at this, like, no, men's bodies are more beautiful. And that's fucking great. And Kim was like, in that program, she was like, I want you to show your body off the same way a woman is showing off her cleavage, the same way that she's showing off her ass. She's like, love your body, like, rock it out, wear your bulge with pride, like, show it off because it is beautiful. And like you said, coming from a Catholic background, it was never, well, I can't say it was never, maybe I blocked that out, but I don't think it was explicitly communicated to me that way. But I definitely had this like deep shame about my body too. So I'm going to shut up there and let you reflect back to me on that.
There's so much there. Like, I mean, and I don't mean to diminish Catholicism. Like, Catholicism was an amazing way for me to grow up. Like, but there's like pluses and minuses, you know, like being a virtuous person, like being someone who's of service to people, having a moral code that you live by, having a sense of greater purpose and like why context for why you're here. It's like all amazing stuff. But at the same time, there's also like the dark underbelly of all of that, and you know, priests and the things they've done, and you know, the whole world of that. Because there is this repression of an impulse that's innate, this animal impulse to like, you know, be wild and like explore our own physicality, right? Because we're here for a reason and there's like a purpose to all of it. And so it's like, you know, right down to your balls. It's like, and it's good to feel all of that and like embrace all of that. And I love what you said. And like, whether you're like, I work with all men, like regardless of their orientation, right? Like that's like a whole nother conversation. It's just like, we're men together. And it's like, if you're appreciating another man's body and it's like, dang, like look at Rob's traps right now. Like, aren't they beautiful? Look at the sunlight reflecting off of his front deltoid right there with his tattoo. It's like beautiful. It's like, it doesn't make you gay to appreciate men in that way. But we have this society where it's like, yeah, it's like, you know, it's all about titties or it's all about ass and whatever. And it's
not real ones.
Real ones, yeah. And then it's like you're like uplifting this thing that's not real and like putting it on a pedestal when like the thing that is real you are like avoiding and hiding and shaming. It's like, no, like why don't we lift up that which is natural and innate, because that's going to lead us towards happiness. Yeah, I mean, there's a whole, well, because you can't make money on it. That's why.
Yeah, if people are just happy in their natural bodies, I think it's important to have a distinction between natural and we talked about naturism, and that's where natural comes from. Not naturism, but nature itself. And a distinction between natural and normal, because we have this connotation of normalcy being the augmentations, like we were just talking about. Like you got fake breasts, you got fake butt implants, you got dudes walking around with injections in their biceps, all that stuff, or in their butts, you get artificial abs, all that stuff now. And like that stuff's becoming more normal, but it's not necessarily natural. And your natural body is fucking awesome, the way that it is. So I have a question for you, and that is, what are the processes that we go through? Because this is all about, from what I can see right now, self-acceptance, and from that comes self-confidence. And you can steer that any way that you want to, because you're the coach here. But how do we go through this process of beginning to get more comfortable in this thing? The only tool that we really have, and the most effective, most impactful tool and weapon that we have in the world, the most important thing. And we're all like, oh, I'm uncomfortable with it. So how do we begin that process?
Yeah, the body. I mean, geez. I mean, one thing, just I want to jump off of what you just said, which is we all have this gift, right? The body. I don't know if you use the word gift, but like I think of the body, it's like this, you are living in the most advanced technology on the planet. Like you watching this, like your phone is nothing compared to your body. And yeah, we have cool gimmicks and we have AI coming out and that whole thing. But like in comparison to the intricacy and the interconnected systems in your body and what it's capable of, like all of that that stuff is secondary. And so it's like spending time connecting to yourself, exploring your body, practicing breath work, exploring nudity, working out, like all of these different, you know, conscious self pleasure, like all of these things are so potent and powerful. And you know, different people at different stages in the journey. So like Nicolas, how, just correct me if I'm saying your name wrong, but
Let us know in the chat.
yeah, let's how to like phonetically pronounce it. But thanks for engaging. Also, if anybody else you're watching has questions, things you want us to like steer into, please like put it in the comments. That's part of the power of this medium, is like we can kind of interact a little bit. But like, you know, Nicolas said, I first got out naked outside at 16 while going to swim in the river near my hometown in summer. Right. So like some people have never been naked out publicly or in socially. And some other people have like, oh, I've been doing this my whole life. I love social nudity. And it's like, so different people are at different stages in the journey. I've found that there are some people, most people, a lot of people that I work with specifically, they come from the tech background, they come from a very fast-paced lifestyle. It's just your body kind of gets this second fiddle. It's like my work, maybe my family, and then my body's somewhere down here below that. So it's like the first thing is like recognizing, oh, like your body is the source. It's like it's your battery. It's what allows you to propel yourself through life and make the difference that you want to make, you know, because you're here because you want to impact people, right? Like you're here watching this because Rob is creating a movement and creating a space, Masculinity Rising, right? Like the new generation of men who can uplift and heal and like support all of humanity's growth. And so you're here as a part of that because something about that attracts you. And so like on that mission, your body is the vehicle that you do that through. And so having your body taken care of is like of the utmost importance. It's your most valuable asset. And that's like the first mindset to sort of like, oh, like really digest and embody and live. So it's like spending that time every day, first thing, investing in your body, moving, breath work, whatever it is. Like that's so important because that's what provides your ability to show up for your family, for your partner, for etc., you know, whomever it might be.
It's really your world. Without this thing, we couldn't experience any of this shit. If you want to go that route, it is the reason why we're here and able to experience things. And if you're not taking care of it, and this is no fault of yours up to this point, now you have knowledge. Now it's your responsibility. As they say, ignorance is bliss, awareness is responsibility. It's like you're walking through life with muddy glass in front of you. It's like you see all of life through your window, as are these, but it's like these are covered in mud because you just can't be bothered to wash them off. You've been told like, that doesn't matter, just keep going through the mud. And all of life just has this coating of mud and dirt over it. But if you take a moment to clean up, then all of a sudden you can see everything clearly. You can feel everything. You can smell everything. And then your body works really well.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, that's like nudity, social, and getting naked with a group of guys is like, that's taking off those lenses. Because it's like, that's how we would have been around each other not so long ago, you know, several thousand years, whatever it was, like before clothes were a thing. It's like, you're around people naked. That's just how we are. And then all this stuff gets added, right? Like you said, the mud, you know, gets caked on and you don't even know that it's there. And that's like, to me, life is like this constant process of, you know, discovering where the mud is, and the mud keeps getting added, and there's mud you didn't even know was there. Like that's, for me, nudity was like that. I remember when I got naked, it was like, whoa, I thought I was like on top of my stuff. Like I thought I was healed and stuff, you know? And then you're like, oh snap, I'm actually not. And that's like, it's like this endless mountain that we're on of like developing and growing and being, right? Being fully here, fully present. So yeah. It's like nudity is a tool that now I'm using to help men clean the mud, so to speak, in their relationship with their own bodies, but also with each other, right? Because that's the other thing, is like getting physical with other men, like fully, like full man to man, face to face, like full body hugs, when you're naked is like a healing experience. It's so powerful. It's so like, just like this is right. But we don't get to experience that day to day, and there's no structure set up for men to relate to each other in that way. So that's part of what, like, I've been surprised at how much value men have gotten from that. So
yeah, we're really. I think it's Jack Donovan in his book The Way of Men talks about how there's deep meaning to the phrase of being a man among men. You know, our whole existence, or our tribal evolution, was all about not impressing the women, but impressing the other men, so that you are really like showing, hey, I can pull my weight within this tribe, and you're showing like these are my particular skills, and we're here to have deep connection to each other as brothers.
yeah,
First, that's the primary thing. And unfortunately, the way that our society, our culture has gone, there's been this wedge as we're in the process of putting out into the universe that we want to escape, have a homestead. We're inviting my parents in, like coming back to community, coming back to tribal living. But our current society has really like driven a wedge in between people. Like now we're all in our own little houses. Our families are millions of miles away. Not millions. I'm exaggerating. That's some exaggeration language there.
sure.
But they're miles away. They're 40 miles away. Let's be accurate there. And then I have a small number of friends, and the friends that I have are far away, so I can't connect to those dudes, and I don't have a deep connection to them because I don't chat with them about real shit. When we see each other, when we talk, it's surface level stuff. So I imagine that learning to reconnect, to taking permission to reconnect, to like hug a dude full on, but then taking off the layers of like the way that you know yourself, these things, this clothes, this mala even is a way of knowing myself. Without it, I'm a little bit less protected, and my body might try to protect a little bit. As we take these things off, then we get to know our true selves.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah, yeah,
we're forced to, well, we're not forced to, but we get to accept that from other people too.
yeah. And just, I mean, just us being on Instagram Live, it's like it's a testament to the times. Like, this is how we connect, because, and we're not in a town square, those of you watching this, we're not all like in a place physically, we're in this digital means, and like we use this to connect as best we can. But it's like, it's a proxy for something else. It's like, it's like it's a tool. It's a tool. But it's not, it's like you said, there's this longing for community. There's this longing, especially post COVID. It seems like now, like we're like 3 years post, like the start of it. And it seems like people are coming out and wanting more connection, wanting more like, oh yeah, I want to connect with people. I want to have events. I want to do this and that. And it's just like, cause that's how we function. Like that's, there's something called the Center for Humane Technology. And they say, there's a quote on their website. It's like, we have Paleolithic emotions, right? Our emotional system hasn't really evolved since the like tens of thousands of years. We have Paleolithic emotions, medieval institutions, and godlike technology. And so we have this amazing, incredible, and like this, the capability of technology is just incredible. But our emotions haven't evolved, and so you still like the ads that we see, like it's all based on those Paleolithic emotions, and we're like hacking into the human machinery that hasn't really changed, but the technology to do that is evolving at a crazy rate. So it's just, we're at an interesting point in history where I think this work and this longing is like more important than ever. And those that prioritize themselves and their physicality and like learn to master their bodies and their minds and their breath and can truly like be in a human body are those that are going to excel in the next 10 to 20 to 50 years, because that's going to become more and more rare as people become more and more distracted by all of the stuff and the noise that's out there. Those that can tune in and use the human hardware is like, those are the ones that are going to excel. So yeah, it says a lot about y'all that are here, that is, that you're here.
I like that
Yeah.
you're looking at this thing that we are in. This, people call it a meat suit, uh, but it's the most advanced technology in existence that we know of. And like the human foot, for example, engineers are working their asses off to replicate a foot for a robot. They cannot do it. They can't do it. I think it's 26. Is it 26 bones, 32 joints, 4 layers of muscle? Your foot has a core like your trunk has a core, and they can't replicate anything as complex as that. And that's just one thing. That's one thing that we can see and interact with. So this thing is something to be proud of, and it's
Yeah.
something to take care of, because like you said, moving forward into the technological, further into the technological era, if we don't have the ability to work with this thing to our fullest potential, we're not going to be able to thrive in the world either. And so I'm curious, for working with the male body, work with men, get out on wild retreats. Where can men start for improving their relationship with this thing, and healing this thing? And if we want to use the word strengthening it, what does the process look like that you would take?
Yeah, totally. So just to go back to highlight one thing that you said, and I see y'all commenting. I'm going to draw from those things as well and what I say next. But like the technology, right? Like technology is just expanding insanely fast, and we're trying to recreate the human. Like that's the thing. Like we're creating these technologies, like we're trying to replicate the human foot. It's like, well, like why are we doing that? Like I'm not here to paint technology as the enemy. I came from a technological background. Like I fully respect, and it's amazing what technology has made possible. But if we're trying to like fix something that isn't broken, and we're trying to use technology to like what are we trying to do with it? Like what's the purpose, right? Technology. Techne comes from the Greek word for skill. It's like we're trying to like it's a tool. It's all a tool. And so like especially with AI now, it's like, how do we use this tool, right? What process do you go through to actually master your body and heal it and take care of it? And so like, just going back through a couple of the comments here in the Male journey, you mentioned self-pleasure. How is it different witching a group? I'm not totally clear. I'll touch on self-pleasure in a minute. I'm not totally clear what your question is. Oh, within a group. Different within a group. Okay. And once you find a group of friends that you can be open and bear with is a blessing. Yeah, that's for sure. Thoughts on tattoos? Okay. R69 fashions hopping off. Okay, so yeah, what's the process? And just touch briefly on tattoos, right? Like whatever floats your boat, like it's your vehicle. It's it's your tool to go through life with, is your body. So you get to decide, how you use it, right? And that's like the one thing is like you're asking me this question, right, Rob? Is like, okay, what's the process I would take people through? And we have so many gurus in today's day to day. There's like everybody's got their 3-step process, and not to talk smack about 3-step processes, but like, you want to lose 40 pounds in 14 minutes? Like, follow my free, my 2-step formula. Download this PDF, join my email list, pay me, and you'll get there in 4 minutes.
And you're
there.
It's like the touch of death kung fu guys from the 90s.
Dude, the touch of death kung fu method. You can lose 40 pounds in 14 minutes. Like my approach, there's sort of like it's like it's all ancient wisdom. It's like ancient knowledge. I'm just rehashing from stuff that I've learned and practiced, right? So like the process that I would go through with people generally is like starting with the basics, right? The fit, and what's the most basic, like any nutrition coach, any coach in the health field, oftentimes they'll go, okay, what's your nutrition like? How are you sleeping? How often are you working out? You know, how much water are you drinking? You know, stuff like that. But but before we get to any of that, there's like the most overlooked thing, something that we practiced before we got on this freaking call. I practice with the guys on the WYLD retreats and harp on so much with my clients that I've trained with. It's like the breath. You know, you can go days without food. You can go days without water, right? But you can't go 10 minutes. The world record breath hold is 10 minutes, something. Then some 10 minutes, 40 seconds, I think it was. So that's just says something about its importance. And so the first step is checking in with all of those things, right? Your breath, your food, your water, your sleep, those physical things. But the breath is really the start point when it comes to healing the body. And a lot of people just, you know, we're not even present to how not present we are to our breath, because we're focused, like while you're focusing on this, your awareness is being pulled out of your body and into this live with us. And so I'm going to breathe a little bit, and you're probably regulating yourself off of my breathing, right? You're looking at Rob like, you know, we're here now. I'm going to consciously slow down my breathing. And just like settle in a little bit, because we can get so excited, especially, you know, you're flipping through Instagram, like looking through reels or whatever, and it's like boom, 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 boom. Awareness gets pulled out of the body and pulled out. So it's like the process is coming back to the body, charging up the body with energy through your nutrition, through your movement, through your food, through protocols you go through every day. And then once you've filled up your cup, then it's about, okay, how do we direct it and open up the body, open up the being? Okay, now let's pray, right? Let's use our fully charged up body to cast our intentions into the world and then proceed from that place. That's kind of very philosophical, new agey, energy wise talk, but and then find a community, right? So it's like, fill up yourself, like put on your own mask first, step one. Right, take care of your breath, your sleep, your water, all that stuff. And that's like, there's a whole world there that, and every different coach will tell you a different way. Then step two is, okay, let's find community, find places where you can have brothers around you that support you in those things, because the world is always going to try and pull you in a different direction. But when you have that support structure, you have that community, that brotherhood, it's going to have those habits and all of those practices last and endure and grow and expand, and you're going to learn from the people around you. And then the third step is like, okay, those men that you're with, like, what are you all orienting yourself towards? That's where the spiritual practice comes in. That's like, okay, what are we creating in the world? What are we standing for? We have this full body, this strong, this strength, right? We have this brotherhood, we have this connection. Now there's many of us. Now, what are we going to go and accomplish? Why are we all gathering? And asking those big, deep questions, like, why am I here? What is it that I want to accomplish with this life? What's worth filling up this cup for? What's worth the sweat and the tears and the pain of this life for? And so the WYLD retreat is like, encompasses all of that in a weekend. And so it's like, you get to totally recharge your body, the nutrition, the sleep, the unplugging. Your phone is on airplane mode for like 48 hours. And then you find these brothers. You get to actually connect with these brothers that you're there with. And then we ask the big questions together in that container. Like, okay, why are we here? What is going on this planet? Like, why the heck? Like, why is the economy doing what it's doing and all of this stuff? And what is my place inside of this confusion and this, you know, I just posted today about a NASA funded study about, you know, cyclical civilization collapse. And we're in this sort of pattern. We're in this place in history where it's like, that's expected. Like, all great civilizations, they have a rise and they have a fall. And we are watching, and, you know, we're watching this rise that's happened. And now it's like, many people are describing what's coming next as the fall. And so it's like, okay, we're gathering together and like, okay, well, what are we going to do about it? Who are you going to be in the face of that? How are you going to weather this storm that's coming? And I don't mean to sound like a doomsday apocalypse prepper, but like, you know, this is the times that we live in. And I think it's important to acknowledge all that stuff. So yeah, that's my long-winded answer to your question there.
Yeah, going off of that last thing, it's Jordan Peterson that says life is hard, so it pays to be strong, and you never know when you're gonna have to shoulder someone else's shit. So that's a concise way to say, like, yeah, things are good. We don't know what's coming, but you might as well be prepared. And it sounds like the process is going back to ancient stuff. Hippocrates had at least 5 doctors of movement, physical activity, diet, encompassing food and water, rest, which is so much more than just sleeping, and uh, exposure to nature, and happiness, engaging in things that bring you that joy. And that's filling your cup, which in our society we see as like so feminine, so girly, and like it's not a masculine thing. But in my opinion, and this is just one dude here, as I'm writing my book, which you can see on Substack, the shitty first draft is up if anyone wants to check it out, is really as we've lost our tribal connections, as we lost our elders, we lost the wisdom that health intelligence, the ability to take care of ourselves, care of ourselves, and fill our cup, and our emotional intelligence, which is innate in men. If you pay men to practice empathy like nurses, to read other people's emotions, men are just as good at it as women are, but we shut it down. We pretend like we don't have it. Like we have these things. These are innate things for men. And in a tribal society, when you're out on the hunt, like if you don't know how to take care of yourself, you're just the hero rushing in. You're putting everybody at risk. That's stupid. If you didn't take care of your body, you're injured, and you're out in the middle of a hunt, and you're like, oh, this injury is starting to bother me. You're putting everyone at risk. And if you can't read a situation because you're shut off from your emotions, you can't notice what you're sensing. Like, oh, your body's telling you there might be a dangerous thing happening. You're putting yourself and everyone else at risk. These things are not feminine. They're not girly. We have to fill our cups. And then once we have that, bringing it together, once that cup is full, well, where do I want to flow this? And that's where the masculine structure comes in. The Romans had the aqueducts. They took this raw power of nature that is water, and they directed it and made some really cool shit. Stuff that we can't imagine. Like, how did they fill the Colosseum with water and do naval battles in there? We don't know, but they did it. That's one entertaining potential, but there's so much more. Once we fill our cup, we can flow that energy wherever we want. And two, having brothers beside you, the Spartans were the kings or warriors of saying that you're only as good as the man beside you, and that the king is no higher status, even though he's the king, than any other man. He showed up. The Spartans had fraternities once they graduated from the Agoge, and they were expected to eat dinner every single night with their brothers and tell jokes and debate and have fun and laugh every single night. They were expected to do that. They had that brotherhood because that, one, they filled their cup. Two, that helped keep them close knit so that they can move towards their purpose. They could fulfill their vision. That's step three. Anything else coming up for you? Oh, as I went on that journey, I was just so inspired.
Man, I love it. I love it. Bouncing off each other. And that's like the power, right? Bouncing off each other as men. Like you draw inspiration from those around you, but you also like that concern. Like we live in a very, especially in America, I know some of you are tuning in from overseas, but like in the US, we have a very self-centered culture. It's like very much about, especially for men, we're like indoctrinated into this, you got to go and be successful and go and get the job and the this and the that. And like your success and what is good, like the philosophical good, like the good towards which you're moving, the thing you're trying to accomplish with your life is to be successful, meaning you have lots of money, you have lots of, you've worked hard and you've built some wealth. And, that's a paradigm shift from what we used to have as the way of looking at life, which is you're only as strong as the man next to you. Because in our paradigm, the other men don't even exist. It's just like, I'm trying to get ahead, right? I'm trying to beat other men out. I'm trying to be the best in and overcome all these other men around me that are trying to pull me down, and the haters, and this whole like psychological soup that we swim in. But like the new paradigm, and really the old paradigm, is, well, how can I support those around me? How can I, and that's, to me, that's real masculinity. And that's what's been kind of lost, is like, and that's not a feminine thing. It's not feminine to care about the people around you. Like if you look at like Lord of the Rings, you look at Aragorn, right? He's like
King, man.
looking for, okay, how can I inspire those around me? How do I show up for those around me? How do I, lead in such a way that's not about me, but about the greater mission that all of us are on. So I think that's just like such an important piece. And that's why like getting naked on a retreat with a bunch of other guys is so part of why it's so powerful, is because it's like all of a sudden you're like, we're all here, we're all naked, we're all men. And why are we here? We get to create that, we get to define what that looks like. What do we want our relationship to be as men in the future, right? That's like, I imagine that's part of why you're creating this movement, Masculinity Rising, is like a space where men can recreate and discover and create a new kind of brotherhood of these uncommon men that are really seeking to create a new normal for what men can be and how we can relate to each other. I think this is fucking awesome. For my language, but
yeah, it's really, once you take your clothes off, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, whatever realm we're in, all of a sudden you can't define yourself by your things anymore. And
yes.
So the cultural narrative of do, grind to earn so we can purchase falls apart.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you are completely naked, literally in front of other men. None of that shit matters. The only thing that matters is who you are.
Yeah.
In here.
Yes, exactly. Nobody's wearing a Rolex. So then we all act a certain way because they have a Rolex. It means they must have a lot of money. That means they must have worked really hard. That means I must look up to them. But it's like, maybe they're a shit person. Like maybe they just like took advantage of others to get that. And that's not what we want to lift up. Just like we were talking about with, it's like, what do we want to lift up in our society? Do we want to like lift up that which is superficial, that which is fake, that which is, or do we want to lift up virtue? Do we want to lift up like each other? Do we want to lift up the things that create a harmonious and just society? Not to sound too philosophical, but you know what I mean?
It's wired into us, man. It's wired into us. My wife would be like, I'm not listening to this anymore, but you and I, and I'm sure any of the other dudes on here, you're like, yeah, let's talk about Aragorn and how he symbolizes the divine masculine. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm curious then, through this work, through WYLD, through nurturing this thing, through connecting to our brothers, is reestablishing that connection, through clarifying our vision so we can flow from that empty cup. What are the changes that you see? One, what did you see in yourself? You're going back to the very beginning of this conversation, and what are the changes that you see in dudes that go through your WYLD retreats?
Yeah, I see them taking time to unplug. That's one of the things that's been very simple. It's a very simple thing to do, but it's so powerful. And men who have come, some of them have said that's the most powerful part of the retreats, is like actually turning your phone off or putting it on airplane mode for 48 hours. I'll do it for 24, like my weekends, typically on Saturday. Sometimes I'll even do it just for 12. I'll leave my phone on airplane mode on Saturday until 1 o'clock. And in that morning time, before anything else, before I open up to any communications from anyone, it's the phone's on airplane mode. Nobody can reach me, and I'm doing my spiritual practice. Maybe I'm naked, maybe I'm outside with my bare feet on the earth, and I'm saying a prayer, and I'm like, God, direct me, because that's another piece of this whole puzzle, is like looking to God, like looking. I'm not here to make you subscribe to a religious belief system, but like to look for that which is greater than yourself. Because I don't know about you, but I didn't design this body. This is like, oh man, this is incredible. Like I don't know how this got here. There's a sense of wonder and curiosity that I think gets lost often because we live in this hyper logical society where it's like everything needs to be figured out. Scientific materialism, right? It's like everything has a logical conclusion and a logical explanation, and it's like maybe it doesn't. Like that's part when I studied quantum mechanics, it was like there's an uncertainty inherent in life. Like that's physics, that's quantum mechanics. Like you can't tell a particle's position and its energy. Like that's just hardwired into the fabric of reality. And so if you're trying to figure everything out and put everything into these neat little boxes and like perfectly schedule every minute of your day, which I've tried to do, and that's the pitfall, right? Because why are you always connected? It's because there's so much to do. There's so many things to look and find, and there's so many people to connect with, and there's so much to do, and it becomes this giant burden. And then when you unplug and you like disconnect and put that all aside, then it's like, oh, I can breathe. I actually don't need to do all that crap I thought I did. Like if I take a few hours away from my work and don't check my teams like every 5 seconds, nobody died. Nobody like, oh, I actually have more space for myself than I thought. But I like built myself into this box because because I want to show up for people. It's like there's a positive impulse there to like help and like I've got to be there and be. But it's like if you're always on, then you're never really there. You're always stretched too thin and too exhausted, and that's been one of the big things. I mean, I have somebody in the comments, right? Frisky Frolic, he was there, and I mean, you can read from his experience, right? My comments disappeared. There we go. But it's like that's been one of the most valuable practices. And so the way I integrate that is like every Saturday I have my sacred morning time, and it's just me, my wife, my daughter, saying prayers, moving my body. That's like how I start the week. And I journal, just let the divine, let nature, let the world influence me. Let that be my feed for a little while. There's gonna be plenty of times where I can check, and like those things I see on Instagram are gonna filter and like start telling me like your brain is automatically going to react to whatever it sees. Like you open up Gmail, you open up Twitter, you open up Instagram, whatever you use, like your brain is instantly thinking about all those things. You close that app, your brain is still thinking about all those things. But if you take the time and you unplug, your brain has to like, whoa, it's like this process and this practice that's so important in our day-to-day life of like, oh, what do I think? What about if there's no outside influence, right? And that's like part of being a man too, is like, can I shut myself? Like, can I be independent? Can I find myself as distinct from everything else? Not to say to isolate oneself at all. I'm not about that. I hope that's been clear. That's been made clear. But can I unplug? Can I come back to myself? What is that place? What is that state? That's part of nudity too. It's like when you get naked, you have to face who you are. You have to face your own body. And it's like, can I love all of that? Can I be with all of that? Because when you're a space that's open and loving and free and accepting, then other people want to play in that space. And then everything that you're out to accomplish in the world, the connections you want to make with people, the way you want to show up starts to happen just like that, because you are a clean vessel. And there's so few clean vessels out there that are really a space for life to emerge and show up. So yeah, that's like the process of unplugging and the benefit. Yeah. We have a little,
Yeah.
Back over.
We've yeah, I've overshared.
It's super fun. This is a blast.
It's like through our desire to produce and like have the things so that we can be like, this is how I know myself. Look how cool I am. It's like we're crushing the sand to gather all of it and just squeezing it through. We're losing all the sand that we're trying to create in the process. And through unplugging, it's like, oh, well, I can let go of the contraction. I can stop trying to force this, and all of a sudden I can hold more sand. Or like trying to grab water. You can't grab water, but you have to caress it. You have to be gentle with it. You have to hold it that way. And I remember back in high school, man, DSL routers for the internet, and it would be staticky all the time. I always had to unplug it, let it sit for a couple minutes, let that discharge, and then plug it back in because my internet connection sucked. But then once I plugged it back in, it was good. It would work. And it's like the same thing by taking, like you said, 24 hours, 48 hours a week off of your tech, or away from your schedule, because that's the same thing that we're doing to ourselves. We're constantly doing. Why? Well, we probably have this deep-seated feeling that we're not good enough unless we're doing, unless we're helping, unless we're rescuing in some way or another.
Yeah, that's so, and the point, it comes back to that self-worth, right? It's like, I need to work because I'm not worth enough. I need to make myself worth more. So we like get locked into this cycle. And I've worked with people who are executives at $100 million startups. They have the same thing. I need to sell the startup now. I need to make, it's like it's a bottomless pit of like, soul suckingness. Yeah.
One of my favorite phrases that I write about in my book and that I put on here all the time is that you're not a human doing, you're a human being. And the only way that you can connect to that, to your true self, to be able to like hear all the cool things that you have going on inside, all that wisdom, is to unplug and to sit down and be. Oh, slow it down, man. I feel pretty fulfilled with this conversation. So I think we'll move towards wrapping this thing up, and then if everyone's super excited about this, we can do more, because I'm sure that you and I can go on for hours. So I have two final questions for you. One, what is one unusual habit or absurd thing that you love? And this, I mean, you like being naked, so that's already, you already have that. But outside of that,
one absurd. Say the question.
What's
absurd
one unusual habit or absurd thing that you love or that you do in your life?
Yeah, definitely being naked is one of them. Unusual. I like eating. Let's see.
I like eating.
Yeah, we'll go. Habit. Let's see. I like eating raw liver. That's like a weird thing.
Wild man.
Wild man. Truly wild.
You're like Kevin Costner on the Bison Hunt.
Dude.
And Dances with Wolves.
That's the vibe. Yeah, like that's the liver is like the most nutritious part of an animal, and people don't get that. It can be gross. You got to learn how to cook it, or you just learn to love it and you eat it raw, like, which is unusual. But it's like super nutritious. It's like, and it's not super pricey because people don't want it. So it's like you can get grass-fed, like organic beef liver for like $4.99 a pound. You go and try and get a New York steak or whatever. It's like $22.99 a pound. It's like, at least where this is the prices in USD where I live. But yeah, that's one unusual habit that I have. Also, farming. I've started farming. Like really, like, getting deep into that.
Yeah, world. I want to chat more about that with you, and I imagine a lot of the guys on here and women, if you're here, listening, will want to hear more about that, because me and a lot of people that I talk to, a lot of guys that I talk to, are like, yeah, we're thinking about going the homesteading route, and that's what we're doing too. So, yeah, man. Outside of that, where can we find more about you, and where can we find you, what you're doing? How can we learn more about WYLD?
Yeah, so I mean, you can check out my Instagram profile, obviously, at TOSSFAIR, at Toss Fair. Toss is a nickname I had when I was a kid. And then you can go to wyldmen.com, WYLDMEN.com. That place is super barren right now. It's just like, to find out more, apply. It's just an apply button. That's literally it. If you see this and you want to hop on a conversation with me, apply for the retreat. Go fill out. It's like a quick form. We hop on a 15 to 30-minute phone call. It's not a sales call. It's just to get to know each other. So if you've seen this, go fill that out and hop on there. And I'm going to be, if you're seeing this later, I'm also going to be updating that page with a lot of cool stuff. I'm building a trailer right now that's going to come out in the next couple of days with footage from the first retreat. Special thanks to Frisky Frolic for helping with the images that were taken there. It was just epic, some epic shots that we got of the experience. So yeah, at TOSSFAIR on Instagram, or WYLD wildmen.com, wildmen.com.
Awesome. All right, my friend, thank you so much for being here. And thanks everybody who joined us. And this will be up on YouTube in the next couple of days. So if you want to access this, re-listen to it, go back, share it, make sure you do that. This is a value for value thing. This is a project right now, but I think I'm going to keep doing this long term. Have Thomas back so we can chat. So the value that I would ask for you to return my way is just liking this, sharing, commenting, because then I know that you appreciate it, that you're getting something from it, because I don't want to be here wasting your time. And that's how I know whether you find value in it or not. So that's it, everybody. Thanks for being here for Masculinity Rising number 6 with Thomas, and have an amazing day.
Thank you. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, everybody. Peace out.
Bye.